Madam President, I want to thank my good friend, my neighbor from Oklahoma for helping me get the time here.
Senate, is it a quorum call?
I move we suspend the quorum call.
Without objection.
And let me thank my good friend from Oklahoma for ensuring that I had the time here to talk for a few minutes about an issue that he and I both feel very strongly about, the best use of American energy and what American energy means to American families. It seems to me that the request that the minority is making, that our side of the aisle is making, is not at all unreasonable. It's been 7 years since the Senate had a real debate on energy. The Shaheen-Portman bill creates that opportunity, but suddenly we're told, well, this bill is so good already. Why do you want to continue to talk about ways to make it even better? Now, very few things beyond health care, which I could talk about for a substantial time, and I hope to between now and the end of the week, and energy have the kind of impact on families that health care and energy have. But what's happened here in the Senate is that the majority leader wants to control every debate every week, which means that nothing happens. That's just not the way the Senate works. We have a Senate that traditionally any member of the Senate could make any amendment they wanted to on any bill at any time. That's not the way the House worked. I served in the House, and the majority runs the House, and the Rules Committee in the House is 9 of the majority and 4 of the minority. It's pretty hard to lose a vote in a 9-4 committee. I think that's why that committee is established that way. But that's the way the House runs. The Senate never ran that way. Now we have a one-man Rules Committee that wants to decide on every bill, every rule that comes up. This gag rule that senators can't talk about the topics that they want to discuss is something that didn't used to happen in the Senate, but now it's a daily and weekly part of the Senate. Now we're at the point where we go to the majority leader and say, on the energy bill, could we have 5 amendments that deal with energy? That is so far from where the Senate in the Constitution was designed to be, or the Senate in practice has been, that it's pretty hard to believe that senators on the minority are reduced to that point, that on the energy bill, Mr. Leader, could we have 5 amendments that deal with energy? On the energy bill in the Senate 7 years ago, the last time the Senate dealt with energy, every senator could have every amendment they wanted on anything they wanted to talk about, because that was the Senate. You know, one of the prices you paid for that 6-year term was you might have to vote on some things you'd rather not vote on. Now we have the 6-year term, but the leader of the majority doesn't want us to vote on things that the majority may not want to vote on. And there are probably people in the minority that don't want to vote either. Not voting is a pretty safe thing, apparently, politically, but it's not the best thing for the country. So I'd like to see a real debate on energy. And one of the things I'd like to see is the amendment that I've offered to this bill to have a point of order to be sure that at least 60 senators would have to approve a carbon tax. I offered a similar amendment to the budget last year in 2013, and 52 of my colleagues agreed with me for a majority vote of 53 that said, no, we don't want to have a carbon tax, and if we do have a carbon tax, it needs to be extraordinary because it affects everybody's utility bill. It affects everybody's ability to pay that bill. It affects whether or not you might have the job necessary to have the paycheck that allows you to pay that bill. And so 53 of my colleagues, including me, 52 and me, said we don't want to do that. Now, several of the people that voted against that amendment in 2013 have had a hard time explaining why they were against it. So maybe we ought to vote on it again. I think we'd have more than 53 votes this time, and if we don't vote this time, we're likely to have a lot more than 53 votes next time, because the American people get it. You know, in the vast majority of the country, half of the utilities come from coal. And rules that create a carbon tax, the central focus of that is coal. The focus of that is fossil fuels generally, but the central focus is the resource that we have that now the Germans are buying from us because they're abandoning their nuclear facilities to go to coal-fired power plants. And Madam President, we have a lot of coal, but more importantly, we have a lot of coal power plants. If you could say, let's not use coal, but our utility facilities work just like they work without having to take millions of dollars of new investment, that would have a different kind of impact on families than when you say, let's not only not use coal, let's build a new power plant everywhere they have a coal power plant, because otherwise the utility bill is going to double. But when you build a new power plant, the utility bill is going to double also. Why would we want to have even the access to a policy that would allow people's utility bills to double? Middle-income families, low-income families are the hardest impacted by that, especially in states like my state, where 80% of the utilities comes from coal. But again, a majority of the utilities comes from coal in a majority of the land mass of the country. Our rates would raise 19% in the first year with a carbon tax or the kinds of rules that the regulators are trying to put in place that would have carbon tax-like impact. And in the decade after that first year, they double. Now, you don't have to be very smart to multiply your utility bill by 2. And if the boss showed you the utility bill at work, you wouldn't have to be a genius to multiply that by 2, and you wouldn't have to be a genius to figure out that if the utility bill doubles, the job that helps you pay your utility bill at home might go away as well. It would lead to significant job loss. It would cause households to pay more for all of the energy they have, and they already pay a lot for energy. For the 40 million American households that earn less than $30,000 a year, they already spend more than 20% of their income on energy. Now, do you want those families to continue to see that bill go up and every month wonder what they can have less of so they can pay more for the same utilities? And not because it had to be that way, but because the government decided they wanted it to be that way. The households that will be the last households to get the new energy efficient appliances, the last families to get the new windows, the better doors, and more insulation in the ceiling, those are the families impacted by this in a dramatic way. Those are the families that live in houses that they have to think, which room can we no longer afford to heat or no longer afford to cool in the heating and cooling months of the year, and we're just going to have to close that door and roll up the throw rug and put it at the base of the door so that the heat and cooling no longer impacts that room. Do we want families to do that so we can have a carbon tax, so we can have bad energy policies? We can do a better job by making American energy more affordable and more accessible, not making it less so. So what's wrong with having that? I heard my friend from Massachusetts earlier said that we were insisting on a controversial amendment on on the Keystone Pipeline. So what? What's controversial about it? A majority of us say we're for it. Controversy would mean people must feel strongly the other way so they can vote against it. Let's let the American people know where we stand on these issues. Are we going to do smart things about more American energy or not? The energy future of the country is so good that in spite of everything the government has done to slow it down, it still has been a major economic driver. So I'd like to see us vote on the Keystone Pipeline. I'd like to see us vote on the carbon tax, whether that's a good idea or not. I'd like to see us vote on what kind of facilities we need to secure our energy position in the world economy. There shouldn't be anything wrong with these amendments, Madam President. We shouldn't be stopped. Senators shouldn't be stopped with a gag rule from the majority leader's office of what we can and cannot talk about. And the idea that we can't have energy amendments on an energy bill should embarrass every single senator here and concern everybody we work for. And hopefully we'll be able to move forward with a debate on an energy bill that's actually about energy, and I would yield the floor.